The total and complete incineration of the EPA is now complete. The Environmental Protection Agency dismissed its top science counselors without telling them in advance. Two of them told HuffPost on Wednesday. On Tuesday, EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt announced a new rule barring scientists who receive EPA research funding from serving on the agenda's three main advisory panels: the Science Advisory Board, the Clean Air Scientific Advisory Committee, and the Board of Scientific Counselors. The move cleared the way for Pruitt to name industry-backed researchers to take control of the boards, who are meant to serve as a check on policies at the agency. The head of the Science Advisory Board, Peter Thorne, and the head of the Board of Scientific Counselors, Deborah Swackhammer, said they learned from news reporters that they had been replaced. Quote, "This is really a destruction of the scientific integrity at the EPA," said Thorne, a University of Iowa professor of occupational and environmental health who has served as the head of the Science Advisory Board since 2015. "It's disheartening to see." Think about what this scumbag did here. And yes, Scott Pruitt is indeed a scumbag. What he did is, he said, if you have taken EPA research funding to do that radical thing called research, if you've done that, well, guess what? Now you cannot sit on the EPA's advisory board. You can't be a top science counselor anymore. You're done. You can't be a top science counselor if you've taken EPA research funding. Well, isn't that a curious thing to do? To ban people who've taken EPA research funding from being top science counselors. In my mind, a rule that would make a lot more sense is if you say, hey, industry-funded people can't be a top science counselor because they have a conflict of interest. If you're taking money from big oil, if you're taking money from coal companies, if you're taking money from frackers, if you're taking money with the clear financial interest in controlling, EPA regulation, well, those people shouldn't be allowed on the board. No, he's doing the exact opposite. He's saying people who've taken research funding from the government cannot be top science counselors. But people who've taken tremendous amounts of money from the industry, those are exactly the people that we want in these positions. So in other words, the conflict of interest with big business is a good thing. That's what we like. We like conflicts of interest with big business because then they'll be hands off, they'll deregulate, they'll let the companies get away with whatever the fuck they want to get away with. They want to pollute the air, pollute the waterways. Totally fine with that. Totally cool with that. We are in favor of that. But if you've taken science funding to do research, no, now you can't be a top science counselor. This all goes back to the same fucking logic or lack thereof that they use the climate change as a hoax crowd uses. And make no mistake about it, these guys are in that crowd. They try to tap dance around it now and act like that's not the case. That is the case. They don't believe in climate science. But what those morons always say is, well, come on. You're going to trust people who get these government grants? Do you know nothing about the government grants? First of all, it's next to no money. They're not getting rich off those grants. They're getting grants that are small amounts of money to do their research. In the mind of the people on the far right who don't believe in climate change, they say that is a corrupting influence, small amounts in grant money to do science research, but it is not a conflict of interest to have ExxonMobil or BP or natural gas companies or any dirty fossil fuel polluters or chemical companies. When those people fund you, no conflict of interest there. No conflict of interest at all. So if there's a privately funded study from all these industries that are known for polluting, and the finding of those studies are, hey, pollution's actually not that bad. Idiots on the far right go, that seems legit. The conspiracy, the conflict of interest, it is right in front of your face. It's the people who say climate change is not happening. It's the people who say pollution's not a problem and we could do less regulation. There's your conspiracy. But no, they take these poor scientists at universities who get small amounts of money to do serious research, And they go, yeah, greedy scientists. Greedy. What are you going to make, like $40,000 this year? Greedy. Obviously, this industry-funded scientist who makes hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's totally legit. In the case of Scott Pruitt, so some people, I look at them and I go, you know what? That person knows better. They know better, but they're really corrupt. You know, those people exist on the right, where you go, they know they're doing fucked up shit, but they're going along with it. Scott Pruitt, I don't. I think he's stupid. I think it's both. I think he's massively corrupt, but he's also stupid. He sued the EPA over 12 times. I mean, a guy who has a grudge, he really believes in the Ayn Rand, get rid of all the regulation and everything's better philosophy. The EPA is done. Whoever the next Democratic president is that gets elected, whenever that may be, that person will literally need to build the EPA from the ground up because it is completely and utterly obliterated under this administration. That's the point. They wanted to handcuff it. They wanted to make it non-existent so the companies can get away with doing whatever they want to do, don't care about pollution, don't care about climate change, don't care about regulation. And by the way, let's fire the top science counselors and put in their place industry-funded scientists. But no conflict of interest here. The conflict of interest is when the scientists are on the science council. The ones who, did research.